Dr. Nerenberg's mind-body workout system.
Now, often for a man, if there's any kind of insecurity, maybe you get some guys who are small and they want to build themselves up. Or you have somebody who was frail or sick and they offset that by training hard and achieving something with power. But keep this in mind, always. If you were the only man on the earth and everything was there, all the food and everything you could ever want was there, ask yourself this question: would you be training? For most of us, I'd say no. So we can see it has something to do with the existence of other people that we train. And I'll tell you one that's very important. Every man wants to receive respect and to give respect. And one part of that is to be strong. You carry yourself with that confidence. It's a great thing to have that confidence. It's a double-edged sword, let me tell you. You know why it's a double-edged sword? You start losing that strength, and keep in mind, every man respects strength. Every man respects muscle, without exception. What happens if you get injured, you get older, ill, and you lose that? All right? Then what happens to that self-respect? Many men, as they start losing their ability to have that enormous power, start feeling badly about themselves. That's dangerous. Now, what I suggest is you look at this as a lifelong path, and you have to then understand the concept of reinventing yourself. I became the strongest man in the world when I had prostate cancer. I have a number of lifts that are world records: bench press, T-bar, strongman pull, and power pull-up. But why did I go off of the bench press? I started getting a lot of injuries, rotator cuff injuries. So I started doing pull-ups. I started doing T-bar strongman pulls. I reinvented myself, came up with lifts nobody's heard of. Nobody even ever heard of the term T-bar strongman pull. So I started reinventing myself that way. Then began to have a heart attack, and about 6 months ago, I had another stent put in my heart because my artery was 80% closed. Went into bodybuilding. Started developing more muscle being cut, chiseled. So you're going to need to reinvent yourself. Because I tell you this, the great athletes you're going to see lift today, and we have some great men competing today. I say this to you: your self-concept, you need to be able to reinvent yourself when you have to, and not to ever define yourself totally by that power. And also this, we compete also for glory. But you know, when the Romans would conquer, they'd have a slave in the chariot, and the slave would whisper in his ear, "Glory is fleeting." They would whisper, "Glory is fleeting." We don't even remember the name of many strong men of yesteryear. It's fleeting. Who are we? It's really simply a reflection of our Creator. So if we take the glory for ourselves, it's short-lived and it's fleeting. So the spiritual perspective takes us beyond that it's a reflection of the glory of our Creator. Now, man gets big. When I became the strongest man in the world for my age and weight, with a 365-pound bench press, raw, drug-free, at 65, T-bar strongman pull of 270 pounds when I was 66, and at 67, power pull-up of 125 pounds. Doing these things was a great accomplishment, but who cares? Here's what happens. When I was 212 pounds, I would have gangbangers tell me, "Man, I wouldn't want to see you in a dark alley. I was much more beefed up." And I think, yeah, but you're a lot meaner than me. So if a person really wants to be able to handle himself on the street, the power is great, but it's also a little warning sign. If you mess with me, you're going to have to deal with my strength. But a really mean fighter. What's the essence of fighting? To be you look at most criminal people become criminally violent. They haven't trained any more than a lion is trained. You know what the key is to fighting? Is to suspend the civilized self, to become totally uncivilized for that moment. where then the whole idea is to maim and kill and focus on that. So if a person wants to be a fighter, that's what they go into, if you've got the stomach for that. But you have to be able to suspend. You can't be courteous. You can't be forgiving. No such thing as a nice guy in a fight if you're going to really be a fighter. All right? Turns out some of the best fighters were abused as children. There's a certain meanness, a certain anger they carry. Not all, but many. The meanness helps in the fighting game. Now, I've known some great fighters who are very strong. A guy said to me, he said, I can't go smash another guy in the face who hasn't offended me. So he became a champion powerlifter. This man is C.T. Fletcher, who himself is a living legend. First man to do over 600 pounds drug-free. I'm his protege. Everything I know about strength training came from C.T. Fletcher. There's another aspect, and this is a mystery. This is one that every powerlifter knows. There is a connection between us that's a mystery to me. There is a brotherhood of the power community. There's an immediate connection. And you see the guy in the gym, he's carried himself a certain way. There's a connection, a respect and a connection. I only see these gentlemen that come here, like Ron and others, once a year, twice a year, but I think about them all year long. Always made an impression, the people who are involved. So there is a power brotherhood, and that's a beautiful feeling because it's a society of alienation and isolation. But amongst the power community, there's an incredible connection between us. Any powerlifter will testify to that connection, and you can't even explain it. You meet a guy once, twice, and there's that camaraderie. Why? It's there, though, I can tell you that. Now, ultimately, we're looking at a passion. And I'll tell you something else. You have to have a person releases their passion, which is, by the way, one of the 4 aspects of the radiant vitality that I'm going to talk about. Radiant vitality involving passion, love, power, and health. Health, by the way, and I need to tell you this up front, the journey of the powerlifter, and almost as badly as with the bodybuilder, is a dangerous path. Many powerlifters get an enlarged heart. In my 60s, I put on 40, 50 pounds, mostly muscle. My body wasn't used to it. At 61, I had a heart attack. Took my weight down from 222 to 212. Set a world record within a year. But, so there is, to some extent, an insanity to this thing. It's not healthy. Person see a guy looks strong, say, man, he's healthy. Not necessarily. Power, strength, and health are not always connected. A lot depends on what you're eating, what kind of rest you're getting. So it's not necessarily the healthiest thing. Probably bodybuilding is probably a bit healthier, getting more cardio because you're doing a lot of reps. Now, a person could say, given the health risks, the injuries, the danger to your heart, why again would somebody do it? I'll put in factor X. Me, why'd I do it in my 60s? I was walking at Whittier College in a parking lot, and I said to myself one day, I could become the strongest man in the world for my age and weight on the bench press. It just hit me. But the crazy thing is I had to do it. And I've talked to some other lifters who had to do this thing. Had to do it. Certain things in life you feel like you've got to do it. And what it did for me, and I didn't even know why I totally had to do it, it released me in terms of feeling much more connected to other men. I can look at a guy and say, you look strong. Man, what do you do for those arms? And you'll know this is just one man recognizing and honoring another man.